Hi, everyone. Welcome to our first ACM Impact workshop. Um, I'm glad that everyone's here. Thank you for taking the time out of your Thursday evening while the presidential debate is also simultaneously happening to come to an ACM event. It's really exciting. Yeah, I'll just go ahead and get started just with a little intro. We'll start off by just introducing ourselves, who we are, what we do, how you can be a part of this initiative. All right. First off, what is ACM Impact? It is actually our newest external facing moonshot within ACM. And to define what ACM Moonshots is, it's a new initiative to support the creation and execution of really big, bold new ideas by and for members of the UCLA tech community. So we do this by promoting idea brainstorming, facilitating new events and initiatives, especially when existing teams and structures on within the ACM board or officer team can't support them. And our Moonshots initiatives are led by our amazing Moonshots director, Sharvani, who you can also see on this call. And for fall, our initiatives include creating a research portal for undergraduate CS students, piloting an internal diversity and inclusion reorganization led by Arjun, who I also think is on this call, and finally, this ACM Impact. So we're the only external facing one, and we'll be organizing events and programs surrounding the intersection between tech and social issues. So really anything that falls on the overlap between those two fields is fair game. So things like socially responsible engineering, tech ethics, social impact tech, tech policy, disinformation. Those are all fair game for topics we could cover in future programs or events. So now to go over the mission of ACM Impact. So our mission is to cultivate a community of technologists, creators, and visionaries at UCLA who are conscious of and committed to improving the social impact of tech and also the tech industry as a whole. So what this means is we really want to connect with you guys, help you get to know all of you who are interested in exploring tech and social impact. And our vision is to create a space for UCLA students to learn to navigate the tech industry as socially minded professionals, work on more impactful technical and non-technical initiatives, and also advocate for change in industry practices and tech policy. So eventually, we want ACM Impact to be a space where you can come learn about tech ethics and policy, apply your learnings when choosing a real world job, and also be more equipped to pursue interdisciplinary opportunities both in school and in your career overall. So we'll just start off by introducing all of us. So I just want to take a moment to shout out everyone on this team. All of these individuals are officers in other ACM committees, in addition to being super passionate about tech and social issues and being involved with impact. So I'll start off by introducing myself. I'm Mega. I'm the PM for this initiative. So I proposed it and I'm leading and organizing the team. And I'm currently a fourth year CS major public affairs minor at UCLA. I'm from the Bay and currently located in the Bay, and I've also been involved with ACM AI since freshman year. So I led ACM AI last year, and now I'm just advising board and AI and I guess anyone who needs it, along with PMing this initiative. And I'll hand it off to Sharvani to introduce herself.
Hello, as Megan mentioned, I'm Sharvani and I lead the Moonshots initiative on ACM. So I just provide backseat support for Mega and the other amazing PMs who have come up with these amazing ideas that will then improve the UCLA tech community and beyond. I'm a fourth year computer science major, unofficial space enthusiast, and social justice fangirl. And yeah, I'm really excited that this is actually happening. I'll pass it off to Ashley.
Hello, I'm hoping I do not cut off because my internet has been terrible. But my name is Ashley. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm a third year linguistics and computer science major and Spanish linguistics minor. I'm along with Maya. And I'm super, oh my God, did I cut off? I hope not. I'm super, super passionate about the idea of using tech as a tool or kind of like as a platform, a way of advancing social impact and I guess like the advancement of marginalized communities. And I will hand it off to Maya.
Hi, I'm Maya. I'm a second year computer science major with maybe. Environmental systems and society minor, we're still thinking about that. Pronoun she, her. And I'm also part of ACM AI as the events director. And I guess why I joined Impact / ACM AI in general is I want to make the computer science field like as not scary as possible, and also want to work when I like grow up, want to work in a place that has more impact than something like what Jeff Bezos does. So yeah. And I don't think Bill is here, but if he
Yeah.
is, pass it off to him.
Yeah, Bill's not here, but I guess I can just introduce him. Bill is our one-off events lead for this quarter and next quarter. So that means he'll be organizing any kind of random events that aren't really part of a workshop series. And he is currently a third-year CS major and is also an officer on ICPC. All right, so we can go ahead and introduce our workshops leads now. So today, I guess I'm the face that you see presenting this workshop, but in the future, for the rest of the workshops, you'll be seeing all of these amazing people creating the content for and presenting the workshops too. So we can start off with Nisha.
Hey guys, I'm Nisha. I'm a second-year computer science major and I'm an AI officer. And I'm super interested in tech ethics in general. So I'm really excited to be leading workshops this year with Arjun. So I guess he's up next.
Yeah, hi, my name's Arjun. I'm a fourth-year CS major. I'm super excited to lead these workshops along with Nisha and just like explore aspects of technology and society that maybe people haven't thought as much about before. I'm also an ICPC officer and a huge reality TV fan, and I just got into The Bachelorette, and I guess wish me luck because this season looks horrible. I guess I'll popcorn it off to Amy.
Hi, everybody. I'm Amy. I'm a second-year computer science major, also a design officer here at ACM. I'm really excited to be a workshops lead with Jason, and I joined Impact just because I think it's important for all of us to realize the impacts of tech, and especially if we're going to go in that work into like the field in the future, we should definitely raise awareness about it. So I'm super excited. Passing it off to Jason.
Hi everyone, my name is Jason. My pronouns are he and him. I will be working with Amy to bring you guys workshops for this coming fall quarter. In fact, we'll be leading next week's workshop, so look forward to that one. I am also an officer with ACM AIA. We do like outreach stuff, so I really enjoy teaching the North Hollywood High School course. Apologies if you hear like something in my background. There's like a helicopter in my neighborhood. But I really am looking forward to the coming workshops for ACM Impact.
All right, cool. Thanks everyone for introducing yourselves. So next up, I'll talk about, I guess, what kinds of potential events ACM Impact could hold. So possibilities are guest speakers or panels from those who work at the intersection of tech and social good. So things like civic tech, ed tech, and more. Other possibilities are student-written blogs on tech policy and current events issues, career events on social impact tech opportunities, either on campus or outside of campus, and also obviously the Intro to Tech Ethics series that you're here for right now. So we're open to hearing your ideas for what you want to see for us as well. Obviously, we're new initiative is just starting right now, and we're really flexible with what we can work on. So at the end of this, at the end of the slideshow, there'll actually be a feedback form where you can also put down any ideas for things you might want to see from us in the future as well. All right, so now to introduce this workshop series, Intro to Tech Ethics. So these are going to be 6 sessions every Thursday at 6 p.m. starting today, obviously, and with the exception of Thanksgiving. And each of these sessions is going to be based around a particular technology topic. So we'll be introducing some basic background on the topic, reviewing potential impacts it could have and some ethical issues surrounding it, and also discussing our own opinions and impressions. So today's topic will be autonomous vehicles. All right, so I'll start off with some definitions. So the definition of an autonomous vehicle is a vehicle that's capable of sensing its environment and moving safely with little or no human input. So these are better known as self-driving cars. I guess the definition of autonomous vehicle is just a little bit broader than just including cars. And also another term that you'll commonly see used when you're talking about self-driving cars is artificial intelligence, or AI. So the definition of AI is the theory of development of computer systems that are performing tasks that normally would require a human level of intelligence to perform. So self-driving cars use a combination of AI and other more traditional program-based methods for steering and control, and just like for the operation of the vehicle in general. If you are interested in AI, shout out to ACM AI, check out their workshops as well. And we'll also be doing a future event, a workshop in this series, specifically dealing with AI ethics as well. Second point, so how do self-driving cars work? I guess it's important to know a little bit about what kinds of functionalities are involved. We're not really going to go too deep into the technical details, just so you guys get an overview of the higher level of like what needs to function for these to work. So first off, computer vision. So how a car sees the environment around it. This often involves AI or machine learning algorithms. So a car can kind of use a camera, look at its surroundings and recognize different types of objects or things around it. Second, sensors. So data from multiple sensors is combined or fused when you're dealing with self-driving cars. So things like sound, also LiDAR, which is a way of judging distance between the car and other objects around it. Third, localization. So knowing where a vehicle is, especially in relation to other things. Fourth, path planning. So how to get from point A to point B in kind of an optimal way. And fifth, control. So how to steer or drive in a human-like manner. So this might not actually be something that you'd like kind of guess would be a big issue when you're looking at, I guess, what functionalities an autonomous vehicle needs to provide. But when a vehicle is driving on the road with other vehicles that are operated by humans, it's really important for it to behave in a predictable manner to humans and learn and drive or steer in kind of a smooth and human-like manner. So other definitions that are important to know are the levels of automation involved with autonomous vehicles. So obviously, there's different levels of autonomy that you can have, and so and each level corresponds to a different level of human control over the vehicle as opposed to autonomous control. So level 0 is no automation. So that's just like your average, I guess, like car, like stick shift or something like that, where the human is entirely in charge of every kind of mechanical movement that the car makes. Level 1 is driver assistance. So when there are things available that control, I guess, one component of driving that the driver doesn't need to worry about. So an example of this is cruise control, where the car takes care of the speed of the vehicle for you, and you don't need to actively press the accelerator in order to maintain a certain speed. And obviously most cars today have a feature like cruise control. So that's kind of level 1 is currently where we're at with most cars that are on the road. Level 2 is partial automation. So this means that most of the features in the car, things like steering, accelerating, braking, things like that, are automated, but they're not fail-safe enough to not require a human to have their hands on the equipment at all times. So someone always needs to be driving, even if they're not actually physically driving, they need to be there to kind of operate the vehicle and take charge in case anything happens. Level 3 is kind of a step up from this, so conditional automation. So this allows, I guess the line between level 2 and level 3 can be kind of vague because these are kind of like more arbitrary terms. But a level 3 with conditional automation is generally when someone doesn't necessarily need to be paying full attention to what the car is doing. And then level 4 is high automation, which is kind of what research has achieved so far. So where technology is at right now. And this includes like someone could fall asleep at the wheel and not be paying attention at all. And they would only really need to be in but the car could perform pretty much autonomously on its own when it's within most controlled environments that it's been specified for. But there still needs to be a human there in the car in case something happens, so that like in case the car is in a situation where it hasn't been trained to perform or something like that. So I guess the summary of that is just that it requires an operator or a person that's still in the vehicle in charge of where it will go. And level 5, which we haven't reached yet, is full automation. So full automation means that there doesn't need to be a human being other than the passenger in the car at all, or in the case of where it's going to pick up a passenger or something like that, there's no one in the car at all. So this involves having a fully automated system that has no need for human intervention in any scenario. Does anyone have any questions about any of this so far? All right, cool.
There's a question in the chat.
Oh, okay. Is there a predicted date of when we will reach level 5? So no, I think personally, I think that it'll take a while. Tesla, I think in the past had said that they would reach level 5 by 2020, and obviously it is 2020 and we haven't reached level 5. There's a lot of challenges involved in terms of testing on a technical level. Obviously a car needs to be really, really fail safe in order to be able to drive without any kind of human intervention possible. And cars so far, and like these vehicles have only been tested in really controlled environments for the most part so far, at least without a driver. So there isn't really a predicted date. Even if we did have the technological capabilities, there's a lot of liability concerns and legal issues that would come along with allowing a car on the road that has that doesn't have a human being in it. So there would have to be new laws and legislation and everything created for it to really be a possibility. And with the pace that the government works at, that'll probably take a while after the technology is developed to happen. But that's kind of also partially my opinion. Yes, Tesla does say a lot of things. I agree, Shervani. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and play this video now. And just like give me a thumbs up if you can hear it once I start playing it. But this is just an example of Tesla's Autopilot that's kind of been in the news in the past, like I guess, couple of years, where people have fallen asleep at the wheel while their Tesla is on autopilot.
Verizon 5G is
I
here,
apologize
with
for the audio.
nationwide. And in more and more cities, the unprecedented performance of ultra-wideband. This is the 5G America's been waiting for, only from Verizon.
On I-90 near Boston, alarming video that state police say shows extremely dangerous behavior. A man and woman both apparently asleep in the front seat as their Tesla seems to keep driving, presumably in autopilot mode. Dakota Randall says the car was doing 55 miles per hour.
I did a double take, looked over, and sure enough, this guy was just head between his legs, completely asleep.
It's happened before. In June, this driver was asleep at the wheel of a Tesla on the 405 in Los Angeles. In 2018, a Tesla driver slammed into the back of a stopped fire engine. The NTSB blamed driver inattention and over-reliance on the driver assistance system. The NTSB is still investigating a fatal Tesla crash in 2018 in California and another last March in Florida. Before enabling autopilot, Tesla says drivers must agree to keep your hands on the steering wheel at all times and pay attention. If a driver takes his hand off the wheels, the car immediately responds with visual and then audio warnings.
Drivers are believing that the cars are autonomous. There are no fully autonomous vehicles that are on the market today.
It may be called autopilot, but police are warning this is a very bad idea. Tom Costello, NBC News, Washington.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking.
All right. So I guess that's one example. And as a reminder, Tesla Autopilot is generally considered somewhere around level 2. So definitely not close to being your level 5 fully autonomous vehicle.
On I-90 near Boston, alarming video that state police say shows.
Okay. And I am going to.
I was at school. The principal told me that I had to leave completely and that I couldn't come back unless I changed my hair.
cool. So I guess the rest of that is kind of just like a replay of the previous video. But I guess the idea is there's been several incidents like this where Tesla drivers have kind of not been paying attention to their vehicles because the autopilot kind of gives a false sense of security. I think I accidentally answered my own question about what level of automation you think these are at, but we will have more opportunities to answer questions and discuss later on. Okay. And now to talk about safety. So obviously what we saw earlier, if something had happened that the car wasn't able to respond to, that could have led to a dangerous incident. And it has happened, obviously, like they also showed the example of a Tesla ramming into a fire truck or something like that as well. But it has been shown, at least in testing, that self-driving cars do have the potential to be safer on the road compared to human-driven vehicles. So the rate of car accidents with in general is pretty high in the US. So almost 40,000 people die every year due to car accidents, not to mention the amount of people who are injured. And this is kind of just a casualty that a lot of us accept for in exchange for the degree of convenience that vehicles give us. But 94% of these car accidents are due to human error. So that's at the fault of the driver themselves who's driving the vehicle. And experts say that autonomous cars have the potential to be safer than human-driven cars. So this obviously isn't something that's been tested in an environment, in a real-world environment yet. Obviously, most of the experiments that have been done are very controlled, but I guess the goal that people are working towards is that these cars will eventually avoid the kinds of errors that human drivers can make as a result of fatigue, carelessness, or any other reason. So now for the ethical issues, you might have seen the trolley problem or something similar to the trolley problem before, but the trolley problem has been used as an analogy for vehicle decision making. And even though it might not be actually scientifically accurate to how a car might make its decisions, it's still an interesting scenario to think about that's kind of worth going over when we're viewing this from an ethical approach. So as you can see in the picture, there is kind of a trolley that's going down a path, and if it stays on the path it's currently going on, it'll ram into 5 people, killing them all. And on the right, there's 1 person. So if the trolley turns to the right, then it'll only kill 1 person. So this is kind of a decision-making paradigm where it's like if you were the driver in charge of that vehicle, what decision would you make? Would you stay on the course or would you turn to the right? And my guess is that most people with no other information about the problem would probably say like turn to the right, so you only kill 1 person instead of killing 5 people. But the difference between these 2 options is kind of a parallel to the difference between utilitarian ethics and deontological ethics. So utilitarian ethics is a form of ethical theory where you evaluate your actions by what action will achieve the most positive outcome. So in this case, the most positive outcome would be killing 1 person instead of killing 5 people. So that would kind of be the course of action from a utilitarian approach. From a more normative approach, you evaluate the decision based on the morality of the decision itself. So if you stay on a path, then you're kind of making no decision. So there's kind of no morality associated with that. But if you actively make the decision to turn to the right to kill 1 person, then you are inherently like making that active decision to kill 1 person, right? And that decision in itself can be viewed as morally wrong because you're deciding to kill someone. So that's kind of a different way of thinking about ethics, and that and the trolley problem kind of emphasizes those differences. And obviously, the trolley problem can have any number of variations that can be less black and white than this situation right here. So something like, what if there was an elderly person on the left and a young person on the right? Or what if there was an injured person on one side and a healthy person on the other side? What if we had facial recognition so we could tell who people are? What if we had a felon or a criminal on one side and we had a person with no criminal record on the other side? These are all things that could possibly be considered if vehicles have to make some judgments about the decisions they have to make when damage is going to be caused in either scenario. So so in practice, though, judgments about what decisions an AI makes might not be so black and white, and it might not be as readable by human engineers at all. So those of you who do have some machine learning experience might know that it's not easy to tell like why a certain prediction is made by a machine learning algorithm, especially in the cases of autonomous driving. These algorithms might be too complex to actually find a level of kind of human-like reasoning in them. So it might not be so clear why a certain probability distribution was outputted by an algorithm that led to a certain outcome. So this might not be a perfect analogy for decision making, but it is something to kind of think about, especially when we think about how to kind of codify decision making for autonomous vehicles when from a legal standpoint, and that's definitely something worth thinking about. But with the current state of machine learning, we're probably not able to see the finer level of detail like this. I see some interesting conversation in the chat, but we can kind of discuss it afterwards as well. And second thing for ethical issues is liability. So who is liable when an autonomous car crashes into something or someone? So some possibilities for this are the driver, or I guess if it's more autonomous, the driver is really an operator who starts the autonomous car or is in charge of the vehicle. Second is a manufacturer. So the factory that made the car itself, that assembled all the components, really made this vehicle and installed all the technologies into it. Or there could even be another company that created the autonomous technology or the AI that's at fault in certain situations. So the liability could go to kind of any one of these options, and it's legally it would have to be clarified what kind of who would actually be liable in which kinds of situations. So to give you some more context, today a driver is at fault if they did not take reasonable precautions to prevent an accident. So generally, if it's a human error, then like the driver is charged, and depending, obviously, there's more complexities involved with insurance and things like that. But generally, like drivers is at fault if they were careless or if the incident was clearly their fault, and the manufacturer is at fault if they didn't ensure the safety of reasonably expected use cases. So what this means is there are certain situations that a driver will be in that a manufacturer should have been able to predict and possibly prevent. So if there is some kind of machine malfunction or a reasonable response that the vehicle should have had, then the manufacturer would be at fault. So just to give you guys kind of an opportunity to answer a question or contribute, first off, like who do you think should be liable if a car is hacked? You guys can drop it in the chat or you can like talk about it as well. That is true, the hacker. I mean, I guess there is, okay, the company that created the car, that's also a good one. I think obviously it really depends on the scenario. So like the hacker, if it's like something so extraneous, obviously either way, I think like the hacker would be potentially implicated, but like Arjun says, the company that created the car, even under like today's standards, the manufacturer is kind of at fault if they didn't expect some reasonable if they didn't ensure safety by some reasonable standards. So like some basic precautions should have been taken to make sure that the vehicle was secure, couldn't be hacked or was relatively secure. Yep. Yeah, I see the kind of the same answer from Kai. Yeah, so for sure, these are all kind of important points to kind of think about. And also another thing that could be possible is like the company that created the software could be different than the company that assembled the car, and then would who would be liable in which kinds of situations is kind of gets even more complex from there. And how about if a driver or operator falls asleep? Like what if there's a driver in an autonomous vehicle or an operator, but there is like a kind of more guaranteed level of autonomy, saying that they don't really need to be paying too much attention. Well, I guess like this would kind of depend on like the level of autonomy of the car itself, but yeah, exactly. Like Arjun says, like the driver isn't expected to pay attention than the company. So there'd probably have to be some sort of definition of when a driver, like what kind of responsibility a human being in a car has, you know, like if, yeah, and Christy says the driver, because there's no way the car manufacturers would accept this liability. That's also true. So that's an interesting point. So we definitely don't know right now how the legal structure will look when vehicles could potentially be fully autonomous. But as of right now, like if you're in a Tesla and you're on autopilot and something happens, you know, you're completely liable because Tesla made you sign an agreement saying that you are. Yeah, and like Kai says something similar as well. Cool. So these are all really good points. Yes, I agree, Ashley. Like I guess the question when you're dealing with like policy and stuff like that is definitely who should be liable, rather than like who will accept liability as well. So it's really it's really up to, I guess, like policymakers to even decide, like once these technologies become more widespread. All right, I'm going to move on to the next slide. So for the last kind of like social issue that this impacts is labor. Obviously, this isn't the end of like all the different kind of industries or impact areas that the prevalence of autonomous vehicles could influence. But one of the main ones that's pretty relevant today, especially with all the conversation, if you're in California over Uber and Lyft and Prop 22, is TNCs like Uber, Lyft, that are investing in self-driving technology. So the largest cost for TNCs is paying drivers, and as we know, like they kind of do try to minimize these sorts of costs as part of their business model, because obviously as a for-profit company, they're trying to make as much money as they can, and it's often like paying drivers in the entire way their system works, paying drivers would be their biggest cost. So eventually, the goal for these companies is to have automated driving available to customers. So essentially replacing much of like the gig labor force that they employ. So the gig labor force is people who are paid by the number of rides that they provide. And so these companies do invest a lot of money and resources into creating self-driving technologies. So the question is, like, I guess what will happen to gig workers at TNCs? What would happen to even like drivers of other vehicles, like truckers, so cross-country truckers? And there are companies, for example, like Convoy, who are working on automating freight networks and who could eventually replace some of the need for blue-collar truck drivers and things like that. So that's definitely something to think about. Obviously, with every technology comes changes in what kinds of jobs people kind of can be employed to do, but obviously getting rid of like drivers as a whole is just something that would definitely have huge impacts on the number of jobs available in this specific labor market. Yes, someone who did intern at Convoy is in this call. Shout out.
I could speak a little bit more about that.
Yes,
actually.
go
like,
for
I
it.
wouldn't say that like their product is going to replace truck drivers' jobs, because they're a trucking broker, which means they connect shippers to carriers being truck drivers. So I think the job that's more at risk with Convoy is like a trucking broker, which is like a human that like calls truck drivers and like calls shipping companies and stuff. But like I guess one thing about Convoy is that like there isn't like should truck driving, which is the most common job in America, like become automated, like I guess there's nothing about Convoy that like would be against that.
Good point. Thank you for contributing that. Okay, I'm going to move on just to discussion. So we have some discussion questions that would kind of, so you guys get the opportunity to kind of discuss as a larger group. I'm going to stop the recording right now just so we don't need, so that we can have kind of a more free-form discussion. All right, so further readings in case in case you're interested, that are related to self-driving cars. The first one is an NBC article. So like how Uber's self-driving cars kind of make sense for it from an economic perspective. Second is an article about ethical challenges in autonomous vehicles and how the trolley problem might not actually be a very accurate or plausible representation of the kind of ethical or moral decisions that an autonomous vehicle might make. The third one is this one's kind of a more lengthy article. I think it's like a law review article, so it's pretty dense, but also kind of interesting. But it's about possible issues between autonomous vehicles and the liability system, like legally in the future. And then fourth is just kind of a lighter read, just an article, a blog article introducing autonomous vehicles and the basics behind like how they work and what the functionalities are. So this is the attendance code for this event. If you haven't come to ACM events before, then you might not have signed up for the membership portal, so you can sign up on our website. So I think that's like uclaacm.com. And the attendance code for this event is Starry Night. And if you want to get 10 points for attending, that will work until 8 p.m. I also wanted to put out a feedback and ideas form. So if you have any feedback about how today went, please fill out this form, because we will definitely be taking your feedback into account for future workshops. And also, we're really open to hearing ideas that you have for future workshops in this series, or also events, future events that we could possibly have. So please make sure to fill out this feedback form. I mean, a lot of the questions are optional, so it's super quick, and it would help us out a lot. And thanks, Maya. And now for some links, so just ACM stuff that you might want to follow. So that's the first link is ACM's link tree. So that just has all the links to our Facebook page, our Facebook group, the link to subscribe to our mailing list. So all of the ACM Impact events will be advertised on our Facebook page, on our Facebook group. And so I would definitely recommend, if you're not already, if you haven't already liked the page on Facebook, join the Facebook group, or signed up for the newsletter, definitely do that, because that's how the number 1 way you'll be hearing about our events. And also the second bullet is just the Facebook link for next week's event. So that so that's just kind of it's a recurring event on Facebook, but if you could RSVP if you haven't already, that would be super great as well. And yeah, like I said, all of the events will be advertised, and definitely like make sure that you're in all of these groups for ACM. Yeah, so thanks for coming, everyone.